one of the main concerns that I have is the effect, the potentially violent effect of my confrontational, agonistic attitude that I'm confronting in the second person. So what kind of a confrontation is this, especially if you don't know me? Well, we have to stop right there. Because part of the point is that the people that I'm really calling out should have known that they were sufficiently enough invested in my philosophy training, not me in particular, but anyone in particular could very well, for any number of reasons nobody can count, be a dyed-in-the-wool analytical thinker and belong somehow, somewhere in academia. And direct some very concerted effort for an undivided block of 39, 40 years. Do 17 years of psychoanalysis on the couch. Get 2 philosophy degrees. Spend a bunch of other years with weird mystics. Trying to ask old men what they know. And in some cases, women. Usually it ends up being older people, because the younger people, like Marcus Gabriel, usually aren't brazen enough. For a few minutes there, I didn't think that he was going to make it, because it looked to me like he was skating on pretty thin ice with his reading of Frege, but still I'm not entirely sure what his reading of Frege is, because I haven't heard any, pardon me, that's the unconscious is speaking through my middle finger when I am referring to Marcus Gabriel. I guess it's more true than not. Oh, dear Professor Gabriel, what are we going to do with these psychoanalysts, huh? Jesus Christ, what happened to philosophy? Can you believe this shit that we have to deal with now? Just because it calls itself psychoanalysis? These smartasses? Because they chose a fucking name? It's the same with Frege. Just because he decided to associate with himself with philosophy, suddenly some unappealing, what kind of words, uncharitable words I'm supposed to use? Introverted, uncharismatic. Well, that's not kind. Well, Frege supposedly was not a nice guy, but maybe he didn't know how to be in public or whatever. But he was not a philosopher. You know that, Professor Gabriel. So do you, Professor Priest. So do you, Professor Field. So do you, Professor Chalmers. So do you, Professor Yabla. So do you, Professor Maddie. Anyway, what I was saying is, my friends, dear Andy and Brian, Yes, as you know, I have a Byzantine Christian name, and I guess I have a SoCal double 420, and like a bunch of these. These ones are Catholic, and like this one is more kind of barrio because I live in Sunset Park here. This one's Byzantine, that's Greek. So, Melene Dimitrios Konstantinos Vergadis, right? Anyway, you guys know me. I know you. Oh, God bless Mark Zuckerberg. I guess Mark Zuckerberg really does deserve some kind of humanitarian award because this is really kind of bridging, bridging a divide, maybe. I'll give Zuckerberg credit. I don't know by what miraculous occurrence we've gotten back in contact. I know, Brian, here's the reason, is because you were there for a lot of my earliest philosophical experimentations, and I'm going to mention him by name because I know he's out there. And you're going to laugh your ass off, man. Seth Crook. He's out there. He's like probably pretty hardcore. Well, I won't use ideology words. Brian, I've grown very quick. I think to my ability to avoid ideology words completely, lest I become more offensive than I already am, apparently. The Closet God! Dear Brian, the Closet God! Dear Professor Crook, Seth Crook, Dimitri Fergadis, Seth Crook, and one gentleman named Brian from Irvine. We debated the concept, which Brian, dear friend of mine from high school, might I add, Rick Lara's speech, rhetoric and oratory, speech and debate, forensic, represent, speech gods, medallion winners, 1993. Birds of a feather flock together. So, Professor Crook, you will remember, I bet, my friend Brian and I came in, and I think we must have argued with you at least 60 minutes. Brian and I expounded a thesis whereby God, in order to strictly remain morally independent from any influence coming in the direction from man and the world toward God, in order that God not be influenced by man, therefore God would himself have to be a kind of solipsist, a kind of closet God. And with that, my mother is calling me. Interesting timing.